Before we begin, remember, freedom isn't always what it seems. If you're ready to dive into one of the most unsettling true crime stories you'll ever hear, hit that subscribe button, because what you're about to discover will make you question everything about justice, punishment, and redemption. The storm that night wasn't the loudest thing echoing through the walls of Graywood State Penitentiary. It was the sound of steel doors creaking open, the sound of freedom. After 27 years behind bars, Leonard Miles was finally walking out. A convicted armed robber who'd spent half his life locked away, his release should have been a celebration. But to the guards and other inmates watching from behind the bars, it felt wrong. Leonard didn't look happy. He didn't even look relieved. His eyes stayed fixed on the prison yard as if he were leaving a home he never wanted to abandon. When the guard handed him a small duffel bag and said, "You're a free man," Leonard whispered something that made the man shiver. Freedom's a sentence, too. 3 weeks later, Leonard Miles was dead. His body was found in an abandoned warehouse 2 miles from Graywood, the same place where, according to police records, his gang used to hide stolen cash decades ago. Only one problem: that gang no longer existed. Every member was either dead or still in prison. Detective Erin Cavanaugh was called to the scene that morning. The warehouse smelled of mildew and rot. Leonard's body was found sitting upright against a wall, his hands folded neatly on his lap, like a man waiting for something. There were no signs of struggle, no weapon, no forced entry. The only thing out of place was a small piece of paper taped to the wall behind him, a prison cafeteria menu from 1998, the year he was first incarcerated. "Why would someone put this here?" Erin muttered, glancing at her partner, Detective Marcus Reed. "Maybe he did," Reed said. "Maybe he missed the food." But Erin wasn't laughing. Something about Leonard's death didn't feel like suicide. The medical examiner would later confirm her instincts. No drugs, no injuries, no cause of death that made sense. It was as if his body had just stopped. The investigation led them back to Graywood. That's where Erin began hearing whispers from the inmates, stories about men who didn't want to leave. Men who would intentionally break parole, start fights, even beg for solitary just to stay inside. One inmate, a gaunt, soft-spoken man named Carl Jennings, put it bluntly, "Out there, you're forgotten. In here, you exist." Erin asked him about Leonard. Carl hesitated, then leaned closer. "He told me something before he left. Said someone on the outside was watching us. Said freedom was a trap." A trap. The word echoed in Erin's mind as she walked back through the cold corridors. The deeper she dug, the stranger things became. She found out Leonard had been visited a few days before his release. Not by family, not by a lawyer, but by a woman using a fake name. The visitor log listed her as Rachel Myers, but the photo ID didn't match any record in state databases. No fingerprints, no address. Just a face the camera barely caught before glitching. Whoever she was the last person to see Leonard alive. When Erin pulled up Leonard's old case files, she discovered something chilling. Rachel Myers wasn't new. The same name had appeared on visitor logs for 2 other inmates, both of whom had been released recently. And both were now missing. 3 inmates. Same visitor. All dead or vanished after release. Erin's voice trembled as she connected the dots. This isn't a coincidence. Her partner looked uneasy. "You think someone's targeting ex-cons?" "Or maybe," she said, staring out the prison gates as thunder cracked above, "someone's making sure they never really leave." That night, Erin drove to Leonard's last known address, a halfway house on the outskirts of town. It was dark, quiet, almost too quiet. She stepped inside and found the place empty. No staff, no residents. Only a row of bunk beds neatly made, except one. On the single unmade bed lay a folded piece of paper. Erin opened it carefully. It was a letter. "Freedom doesn't mean escape. Some of us were safer, behind bars." At the bottom was a signature, RM. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Detective Cavanaugh, you're asking questions that could put you back inside, too." She froze. The message deleted itself a second later. No trace. No sender. Nothing. Outside, the wind howled through the broken fence. In the distance, A single figure stood under the streetlight, motionless, watching. Erin reached for her gun and stepped forward, heart pounding. But when she got closer, the figure was gone. All that remained on the ground was a torn piece of paper, part of a prison visitor pass. Stamped across it was a name she now knew all too well: Rachel Myers. If you thought Chapter 1 was dark, wait until you see how deep this story goes. Hit that subscribe button before we dive in, because this next part will make you question who's really free and who's still trapped. Detective Erin Cavanaugh couldn't shake the image of that name, Rachel Myers, stamped across the torn visitor pass. The woman had appeared out of nowhere, tied to 3 inmates who either turned up dead or vanished right after their release. There was no record of her existence before 2012, no driver's license, no school, no social security trace. Whoever she was, she'd erased herself perfectly. But there was one place Erin hoped she hadn't covered her tracks completely: the prison surveillance archives. At 2 a.m., Erin sat alone in the Graywood State Control Room, scrolling through hours of black and white footage. Static hummed, screens flickered, and the hum of the old generator filled the silence. Then she froze the tape. There she was, Rachel Myers, wearing a dark trench coat, hair tucked under a hood, standing in the visitation room opposite Leonard Miles. Her posture was calm, her eyes unreadable. The audio feed was broken, but Erin could see Leonard's hand shaking. At one point, Rachel leaned forward, said something that made Leonard's eyes widen in terror, and slid a small object across the table. When the visit ended, Leonard didn't stand. He just stared at her as she walked away. Erin leaned closer to the screen, rewinding again and again. That small object, it looked like a folded piece of paper. The same kind she'd found on the bed at the halfway house. "What the hell were you giving him?" she muttered under her breath. The next morning, Erin met with the warden. "Do you have any idea who this woman is?" she asked, slamming down the visitor photo. The warden frowned. "We ran her ID through state systems. Came back clean. Federal background check too. As far as the records go, she's as real as you or me." "That's impossible," Erin said. "She's connected to 3 dead men." The warden hesitated, lowering his voice. "Detective, some inmates don't want to leave. And some aren't allowed to." "What's that supposed to mean?" But before he could answer, a guard rushed in, pale, sweating. "Sir, you need to see this. Another releasee just turned up dead. Same circumstances." The victim was Derek Cole, a 42-year-old who had been released from Graywood 2 weeks earlier. Found sitting upright in his apartment, eyes open, hands folded. No wounds. No sign of forced entry. Pinned to his wall, another cafeteria menu from 1998. Erin's pulse quickened. She's sending a message. But to who? The autopsy report didn't help. The coroner said Derek's heart simply stopped. No poison. No trauma. No reason. For men, all from the same prison. All seen by the same woman. All dead after tasting freedom. Erin drove to Derek's apartment herself. Something about the setup felt staged. The menu looked freshly printed. On the back, faintly written in pencil, she found a string of numbers. February 27th, 1998. A date. It was the day of the Graywood prison riot, a violent uprising that left 7 inmates dead and 2 correctional officers missing. The files had long been sealed after accusations of cover-ups and internal errors. She rushed back to the station, pulling old newspaper clippings, dusty case folders, and coroner's logs. One headline caught her eye: 2 guards presumed dead in riot, bodies never recovered. Names: Officer Daniel Myers and Officer Rachel H. Myers. Her blood ran cold. Rachel Myers wasn't a fake identity, it was a ghost. A correctional officer who'd been declared dead 27 years ago. So, who was visiting these inmates? Erin looked again at the photo from the visitor log. The woman in the frame wasn't in her 20s, she was older, early 40s, maybe 50s. The resemblance to the original Rachel was uncanny. Same jawline. Same eyes. Could she have survived the riot? Gone underground? Was she avenging something that happened that day? Her phone rang before she could piece it together. It was her partner, Reed. His voice trembled. Erin, you need to get back here. They just found another one. Another ex-con?
No. A guard.
Someone from inside Greywood. Erin's heart dropped. Who? There was a pause. Warden Keller. She sped through the rain, lights flashing, heart hammering. When she arrived, the prison yard was crawling with uniforms. Warden Keller's body was slumped behind his desk, same position, eyes open, hands folded, no sign of struggle. On his desk sat a single envelope with her name written in precise handwriting. Detective Erin Cavanaugh. She tore it open. Inside was a folded cafeteria menu, the same as the others. But this one had something written in red ink across the top. The guilty never left. Neither will you. Erin looked up. The lights in the corridor flickered. Through the glass office window, she saw a silhouette, a woman's figure in a dark trench coat, standing perfectly still at the far end of the hall. Rachel. Erin shouted, reaching for her weapon. The lights went out. When they flickered back on, the hallway was empty, except for a small piece of paper fluttering to the floor. A visitor pass, time-stamped for tomorrow. And the name printed across it wasn't Rachel Myers anymore. It was Erin Cavanaugh. Before we close this case, I need you to remember, sometimes freedom costs more than a prison sentence. If you've made it this far, hit that subscribe button because this ending, you won't see it coming. Detective Erin Cavanaugh didn't sleep that night. The visitor pass with her name printed on it sat on her kitchen counter, mocking her. The timestamp was for 9 a.m. the next morning, location, Greywood State Penitentiary. The same place where every victim's story had begun and ended. By sunrise, Erin was back on the road. Greywood loomed through the fog, concrete towers, barbed wire glittering with dew, the echo of distant gates clanging shut. She flashed her badge at the entrance, but the guards looked confused. There's no scheduled visit for you today, one said. Erin's eyes flicked toward the sign-in sheet. Her name was already there. Time, 8:59 a.m. Signature, Rachel Myers. Her hands went cold. Someone had signed her in before she arrived. Inside, the prison was unusually quiet. No voices, no movement, just the hum of fluorescent lights and the slow drip of a leaking pipe echoing down the hall. Erin followed the narrow corridor toward the old visitation block, the one sealed off after the riot of 1998. The lock was broken. She stepped inside. The air was heavy with the smell of rust and dust. Tables still bolted to the floor. Plexiglass partitions streaked with age. But at the far end of the room, one table wasn't empty. A stack of cafeteria menus lay spread out like playing cards, each one marked with the name of a dead inmate. And in the middle of them, a new one, blank, except for a single name scrawled in red, Erin Cavanaugh. Then she heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate heels clicking against the concrete. From the shadows emerged a woman in a dark trench coat, her hood down now, revealing sharp, familiar eyes. Rachel Myers. Or whoever she really was. I was wondering when you'd come, she said softly. Her voice was calm, even warm. You're just like them. Can't let go. Erin steadied her aim. Hands where I can see them. You've been killing former inmates.
Why?
What's your connection to them? Rachel tilted her head. Connection? I saved them. You think they wanted freedom? Out there, no one hires them. No one forgives them. Out there, they rot in silence. In here, they had purpose, structure, identity. They were alive. You're insane, Erin hissed. Rachel smiled faintly. Maybe. But I'm not wrong. She took a step closer. You ever wonder why they call it a correctional facility? Because the world out there doesn't correct anyone. It destroys them. I just spared them the suffering. Erin's finger tightened on the trigger. You killed them. I freed them, Rachel said. The ones who couldn't survive the outside. The ones begging to come home. Her words sent a chill through Erin's spine. Home, she echoed. Rachel's eyes darkened. You've been here long enough to understand. You come here every day. You eat their food, breathe their air, hear their screams. You feel safer here than anywhere else, don't you? Erin didn't answer, because for a brief, terrifying moment, part of her knew it was true. She had spent years chasing monsters through these walls, yet it was the only place she felt in control. Rachel took another step forward. I see it in your eyes. You belong here too. Why me? Erin whispered. Because you opened the door. You started asking questions. You disturbed the balance. The prison doesn't forget that. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the hallway, a security door slamming shut. The lights flickered, then went out completely. Erin's flashlight snapped on, beam trembling across the walls. Rachel was gone. Her voice echoed from the darkness. They said the riot killed me. But Greywood doesn't kill. It keeps. Some of us never left. The beam caught movement, a shadow darting across the glass. Then another. Shapes, human, distorted, standing behind the partitions.
Dozens of them.
Faces pale and still. The ex-inmates. Leonard.
Derek.
Others she'd seen in the case files. Their eyes followed her silently from the other side of the glass. Impossible, she whispered. She ran toward the exit, only to find the gate sealed. She radioed for backup, nothing but static. Her flashlight flickered again, then went dead. And in the silence, a voice whispered right behind her ear. Welcome home, detective. Erin spun around, gun raised, but the room was empty. Moments later, the prison lights came back on. Guards rushed in, guns drawn. The visitation room was deserted. No signs of struggle, no intruder, no Erin Cavanaugh. Only the table in the center remained, with a single cafeteria menu laid neatly on top. Her name written across it, stamped with the Greywood visitor seal. Time, 9 a.m. Status, checked in, never checked out. 3 months later, Greywood State Penitentiary announced a new inmate had been added to its population. No crime listed, no sentencing record, only a name on the roster. Cavanaugh, Erin. And every now and then, guards swear they hear her footsteps down the visitation hall, long after lights out, whispering through the dark. Some inmates don't want to leave, and some never get the chance. If you thought that ending was chilling, you're not ready for what's coming next. Hit subscribe, because the next story will take you even deeper into the mind of the criminal and those who never escape it.